How about stocks, dividends, investment funds, mortgages, another Islamic bonds?
Right.
How's all this here?
I don't have too much knowledge with regards to that. I think stocks, I'm not quite sure. I actually looked up this question 2 weeks ago because one of my friends actually has some stocks. I was like, is that halal? Can you actually do that? I was like, yeah, you could. But I do not have much knowledge with regards to that. So yeah, I'll be fine.
I think what we're trying to take out in Islam is the risk, the no risk involved. In Islam, you're allowed to earn money, but you have to take the risk that you will probably lose your money. There's no guarantee.
That's part of trade.
Yes.
As long as it's not
yes,
taking large risks like gambling away your money
Yeah.
with high risk products.
Gambling specifically is mentioned in the Quran. You can't do that at all. And just like chances, like how in the past people used to play with the arrows and stuff like that. That's a high risk as well. Like, you never know what's going to happen. It's pure chance. It's pure luck. So yeah, good questions. Very good questions. Okay, so only when the Quran. So we know the first source is the Quran. Only when the Quran is not too specific on a certain subject, jurists or judges will then move on to the hierarchy. So they will go on to the next one, which is the Sunnah. Okay? The Sunnah. What is the Sunnah?
The tradition of the Prophet.
Okay, good. His sayings, his actions, his implicit approvals. So technically it means what has been authentically related to us on behalf of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from his sayings, from his deeds, from his behavior, from his implicit consent or approval. Okay. So generally, please do not take this as wrong as, oh, that means that the Quran doesn't mention about this, about that. The Quran mentions the major teaching. It has the topic, it has the content, but it does not dwell into the details. That's why the specifics, you will need the elaboration, you will need to refer to the Sunnah, the actual implementation of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'll give you an example. From the Quran, you will see verses like in chapter 2, verse 32. Be steadfast in prayer and practice charity. How should I pray? It doesn't tell me, so maybe I'll just pray this way. Okay? Oh, should I pray like this, or should I sing songs and play guitar? Or should I talk to people? You see what I'm trying to say? How are you? Pilgrimage. There is a duty man owes to Allah for those who can afford the journey. Pilgrimage. Okay, how do I do the pilgrimage? Do I just walk around the Kaaba 7 times and that's it? So the specifics have not been mentioned yet, but the major ruling has been mentioned. You see what I'm trying to say? Now, I'm going to refer to prayer. I'll give you an example of a hadith, which will show you the specific details of prayer. So now this is the hadith. Hadith means the narration of it's narrated by others, by the companions of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, of what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam did or he said. So one of the things that Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may peace and blessings be upon him, said, there's no prayer for the one who did not recite in it the opening chapter. Who knows the opening chapter? What's the opening chapter? Surah Fatiha, which are the 7 beautiful verses of the Quran. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Maliki yawmiddin, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in, ihdina as-siratal mustaqim, siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim, ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. So we've got 7 verses there, okay? So we know that as Muslims, when we pray, we have to recite the first chapter. If we do not, then our prayer is considered as null, it's considered as invalid. Okay? So this is the specific detail that the Quran has not mentioned, but the Hadith, the Sunnah has mentioned. Alright? So that's how you follow the hierarchy. Easy? Good. O you who believe, put not yourselves forward before Allah and His Messenger, but be conscious of and fear Allah, for Allah is He who hears and knows all things. This gives an indication that the Quran comes first, the Sunnah comes second. Okay? Good. Now, what happens if the Quran and the Sunnah are not specific on a matter? That's when Ijma comes into play. Ijma means consensus. And can someone tell me what does it mean by consensus?
We all agree upon something.
Agreement upon something. So literally it means to agree upon something, and technically, pertaining to Islamic law, it means the consensus of jurists from the Ummah of Muhammad, from the community of the believers of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam on a specific legal point at a particular period of time. Jurists here means lawyers, experts in law, legal scholars, people with perhaps excellent analytical skills. Those would be considered as jurists. So please bear this in mind. It's not the normal community, not the general public who would make the decision. It's those with knowledge. Those with knowledge. Because otherwise, people would be like, yes, we should have. I'm trying to make a joke, but I can't think of one. We should. Anyway, so let's put it like that. So it's actually those people with knowledge, or the expertise in the field, in the law field, will be able to make a legal consensus together. Okay? But let me tell you the hadith. Now one thing, the hadith tells this, the hadith is an indication that ijma' is the next step. For Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has stated that my ummah will never agree upon an error. They will never agree upon an error. This is an indication of a proof for the validity of ijma, that there is going to be consensus. It's an indication, some sort of prophecy that there will be consensus, there will be discussion among people, among the jurists. Okay? So the Sunnah and the Ijma, that the Hadith indicates that Ijma is the next one. Examples. Now, Ijma, it started right away after Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam died. Okay? So when he died, the Muslim world at that time needed a ruler. It needed someone to look up to, like someone to rule and to make decisions, someone with authority other than God. So the community, the leaders, the tribal leaders who had knowledge, who were regarded as wise, they chose Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu as the caliphate leader, the caliph. Okay? So this shows that the Quran hasn't mentioned much. It has mentioned in the Quran, there's a verse that mentions follow Allah, follow the Sunnah, and obey those who are in authority of you. There's a verse in the Quran, sorry I do not have the reference with me here, this just popped in my mind just now. It mentions follow those who are in authority of you. But the Quran didn't say, okay, you follow Abu Bakr. You see what I'm trying to say? The Sunnah didn't mention that. So that's when the ijma' comes into play, the consensus. Do you see my point? The second example, look at me. Second, third. This one, the third example over here, the compilation of the Quran. Now, in the early time after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, there were a lot of battles between the Muslims and the others, and a lot of Muslims died. And there was this fear that the Quran may not be preserved. What will we do if so many Muslims die? What if no one even recalls the Quran? So during Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, the first caliph leader of the Muslim world, he decided to implement a system in which the scribes, those who wrote down the pages of the Quran, to compile in one place, to compile it in just one place. All right? So this shows that the ijma, the discussion, the consensus was taken into place. All right? I'm not going to go on the second example. I'm just going to move on. All right. What happens if a consensus cannot be made? So what happens is you will, not you will, but the jurist will adopt something called analogical deduction. Okay? Qiyas. Literally, it means to measure or estimate a thing in terms of another. Don't worry about the definition. I'll give you an example. It'll make you understand it better. Technically, it means the extension of Sharia ruling from an original case to a new case because the effective cause is the same in both cases. New case, original case, they share the same effective cause. Therefore, this ruling will depend on this case's ruling. Okay? And let me just make sure that the qiyas, it compares two situations for which one case, one situation's legislation is derived from the Quran or the Sunnah. Example. O you who believe in Quran chapter 5 verse 90. O you who believe strong drink and gambling, dedication of stones and divination by arrows are but defilement from the work of Satan, which means bad work, it's the dirty work of Satan. So avoid it that you may be successful. Okay, so this is what the Quran says. Alright? The Hadith says Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so you have Quran and you have the Sunnah now, said every intoxicant is khamr, and so every intoxicant is haram. So basically means every intoxicant is haram. Alright? So now what the jurists will do, is they'll look at the original case. Alright, the original case, let's look at chapter 5 verse 19.
Sorry, she was just asking what is khamr. Khamr is the wine, right?
Khamr is the wine, yes.
Every intoxicant is a wine, and so every intoxicant is
Strong drink here refers to wine. If you look at different translations, they will also label this as wine. Okay? I just picked one definition that was easier to understand. Yes.
Do you mean alcohol? Do you mean one means alcohol?
Yes, yes.
Alcohol. Yes.
Alcohol.
Alcohol. You can say
Meaning
one.
even the drink contain 1% of alcohol, you will not be allowed.
Now, there are some different rulings because it says strong, because sometimes 1% alcohol may not be intoxication. There's a difference between alcohol and intoxication. If you drink too much, you'll be intoxicated. You don't know what's
It
happening.
means sometimes beer is allowed.
Beer is beer is not allowed.
They
Because it will
do
intoxicate
have
you.
alcohol, non-alcoholic beer.
There is
But-
non-alcoholic.
But the case of, for example, because I know a lot of Filipino workers who go there actually do use the non-alcoholic beer and convert it into alcohol. So yes, it's quite common. They even have the recipe in the internet. So I don't know the position for that, but according to Saudi, you can buy non-alcoholic beer.
There is this alcohol percentage, as far as I know. For some places, they will allow 0.05% of alcohol in perfumes, for example, in Gatorade, actually, there was a case in which Gatorade actually has very minuscule, very small number of alcohol in terms of percentage. And I actually looked up, and it was interesting because some places would regard it to be over the limit, some regions would not. Okay. Did I answer your question? No, did I answer your question? Like, what do you think?
I think it's difficult to define what mean by strong drink. But what alcohol? I think I give you an example. Apple cider, do you think is allowable?
Say that again.
Apple cider.
Apple cider?
Apple cider still
Is it-
contain
is
some
it-
certain percent of alcohol.
Is it vinegar? No.
No meaning,
There's like
meaning. Apple cider.
Apple cider is okay.
It should be okay because it's not an
Apple cider
intoxication.
still
Actually,
contain
there is
alcohol.
also a limitation if the sirka, the vinegar, if some time is over to them, that it become like wine. For this is different.
What's the percentage? 1%, 2%, or 0.1%?
No, actually in Islam, there is a hadith which says that there is very clear haram, there's very clear halal. In between there are shades of gray, and it is preferable for you to avoid those shades of gray in order not to fall into
The wrong
yes,
side.
yes.
That's
So
true.
I think every person and every country realizes that and does their own qiyas, I suppose, right?
For me, when I chose this list, there were definitions of alcohol. They were like alcohol, and even some of them mentioned wine. Why I chose this one was because strong drink would cover alcohol and wine. Okay. Now I'm not an Arabic reader, so I do not know the exact the context of that word. Because sometimes you do not just look at the each like one single word. Like for example, you don't just watch Allah. You also have to read the whole thing so that you will have an understanding of that word in particular. So at this present moment, I cannot really mention too much about the percentage of alcohol or stuff like that. But coming back to the example here, the original case which mentions wine drinking, in other words, which is equal to strong drink, as I mentioned earlier, that some definitions utilize, some translators utilize wine drinking. It's intoxication, right? It intoxicates you. You forget about the world, you may not know where you are. And let's say new case, cocaine. Now, the word cocaine is not mentioned in the Quran, nor is it mentioned in the Hadith. But this verse from the Quran and this verse from the Hadith is present. So what the jurists will do is, now they'll make an analogical deduction. They will refer to the original case, to the new case, to look at the effective cause. Wine drinking intoxicates you. Cocaine intoxicates you, your mind. They make this deduction from the original case, and they make an analogy. They make a comparison between these two. Oh, because both of them share the same cause, therefore the law is established. Cocaine is forbidden. Cocaine is haram. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Actually, brother,
In other words, anything we consume make you senseless. That is haram.
Exactly. It's not just
Simple.
cocaine. Anything else comes into. So anything that may even alter your mind. Drugs. Smoking. I don't think it follows this pattern, but smoking, there's actually a hadith which Prophet Muhammad mentioned, do not put your hands into destructions of yourself, do not destruct yourself. Okay? And the general ruling I can tell you is that it's haram. The general ruling. Now some places may say it's makruh, some regions, because Shariáh in different countries, they may have different rulings.
No, actually, the reason why it became makruh before, as far as I remember, is because before it was not established medically that smoking was a direct cause of cancer or death.
Yes.
But once the medical proof came out, most of the ulama declared that it was haram. And anybody who questions that can just look at the medical proof and
And it
realize
shows
that
the essence of proof. That proof is needed. And actually, I will come later on. In Islamic rulings, when I will come to the controversial Islamic laws, the proof of evidences, of witnesses is so vital that a verdict can at times cannot even be made if there are no witnesses. Okay? Alright. So there are four sources of Shariáh: Al-Quran, Sunnah, Ijma, Qiyas, Can I just go through quickly? The Quran, in other words, is the Holy Quran. What's the Sunnah? Yeah, thank you. Although you were not here during the time. Oh, you were here?
No, I went up for
Okay, okay. Ijma, what does ijma mean again? Consensus. Qiyas. Good. Analogical deduction. Very good.
Brother,
Yes.
for China,
Yes.
the one in the Arabic you write down, every intoxicant is khamr. Khamr means वो चीज़ जिससे आपको खुमार आ जाए, जिससे आपको नशा आ जाए। In Urdu,
Intoxication.
जिस चीज़ से आपको नशा हो जाए वो हराम। खमर, खुमार, मखमूर, ठीक है? जिससे नशे में आ जाओ, जिससे नशा आ जाए वो हराम।
Now, things in Sharia are in different levels, or rulings, you can say. Rulings related to Sharia. There's some things that are obligatory for Muslims, some things that are recommended, some things that are allowed, some things that are makruh, which means disliked, and some things that are haram, which means forbidden. So they follow this pattern, this leveling. Okay? Just give you an example, actually, can you think of an example? Fard. 5 prayers. Muslim has to pray 5 times a day. Can you give me a recommended ruling of Sharia? The Sunnah, the optional prayers. Very good. So far, the young sisters that were doing very well. Can you give me a ruling which is allowed? Eating, for example. You want to eat apples or oranges, right? There's no ruling, oh, you can't eat apples. For me, I like both, so I'm lucky. Yeah. I don't like tomatoes. Anyway. Makruh, same thing. Makruh, dislike. Can you tell me something which is disliked according to the Sharia? Sorry? Such as crabs, yeah.
Depending on the ruling of the imams, yeah. Some people would actually dislike eating shellfish, right?
You're allowed to, very good question. You're allowed to do it, but it's something that God does not like. So in like, for example, I give you an example, sleeping on the stomach.
Actually, divorce.
Divorce is the most, it's actually it's the most disliked thing by God.
That is allowed.
Yes. So I can use the same example of divorce here. So divorce is something that's allowed, but God does not like that. You see what I'm trying to say? It's allowed, you can do it, but it's something that in the Quran it's mentioned that it's disliked by God. So of course it depends on your intention or your niyyah, because Islam encourages that marriages should sustain, like families should sustain throughout, because it's a solid foundation for the society and onwards. So this is something that's being disliked. Had it been on the level of allowed, it would have been much more free. You know, like people would be like, hey, we can do it. Had it been recommended, hey, let's do it, divorce every other day. You see what I'm trying to say? So it's at a level where the society can still function properly. So it's disliked. Had it been forbidden, it means you would have to stay with your husband or your wife for the rest of the 30 years or 40 years.
And it could give you a big problem.
It could give you a big problem. You may have a lot of, stress, tension, and anyway, yeah. I'm not married yet, so I don't know. So, yeah, but yeah. Sleeping on the stomach is something which is disliked as well.
And actually it causes...
Sleep, have you seen Mr. Bean before? Like the shows, he would sleep on his stomach. And upside down, exactly.
And actually there's a medical study that shows 25% of babies who are put like that, sleeping on the stomach, actually suffer crib death.
Crib death.
Yes. They just stop breathing. So it's actually a cause of, especially because babies are not used to the breathing process yet, because they're just born. So they actually fail to breathe altogether. So that's a medically proven sunnah.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's
I didn't know
on
that.
the website.
Okay, prohibited. Forbidden. Can someone give me an example of prohibitions? Sorry? Eating pork, alcohol. Easy, easy. You guys know. I'm now going to come back to the purposes. As you can see, the Quran tries to establish, the Shariáh tries to establish a correct way of life, guidance from politics, from family matters, from eating, from even economy, like interest, as I've mentioned earlier. It enjoins the good, it forbids the evil, cocaine, drugs, riba, intoxication. Takes care of the public interest. It takes into account the societal level. Okay? It aims to preserve these 5 things. Deen, as I mentioned earlier, life. Okay? In the Quran, it's mentioned in chapter 5. If you kill one person, it is as if you've killed the whole of humanity. If you save one person, it is as if you've saved the whole of humanity. And I'm going to show you a video in which you can see how a Muslim in a non-Muslim country saves Jews in a New York train. And had he not saved, there was a high chance that they would have died. Alright? So the preservation of life is vital. And in Sharia. Dignity as well, honor. The Sharia discourages spying. Do not spy on others. And sometimes, in life, we hear rumors, and then we're like, yeah, he's a bad man. Oh my God, my boss is horrible. Oh, she did that, he did that. The Quran says, do not even think like the Sharia says, do not even think like that. Be optimistic and give the benefit of doubt. Give the benefit of doubt, so you think positively. So you can see how the Sharia is so well established, which can be implemented through ages, through the period of time, that time existed till the day of judgment. Okay? Intellect, like I've mentioned, cocaine is haram. Intoxications are haram. Property, you cannot steal. Sharia forbidden stealing. You cannot cheat in transactions. You cannot take riba, usury, interest on loan. That would be considered under the category of property. You're not protecting the property of others. So you can see how Islam, the Sharia, the Islamic law covers all aspects of life, which is very beautiful. Because if you look at secular laws, if you look at man-made laws, they would cover economics, they would cover politics, but what they don't cover is the morality part, the ethical part, morals. And morals in Western laws, if you've seen, in Western countries, or secular laws, it's something that is a social thing, like a social custom. Oh, people are doing this, I will follow that. But it's not a codified law. You see what I'm trying to say? I'm going to show you some laws later on which you will find funny. Alright? Which are actually implemented in the West. Alright? So I'll come back to this as well. As promised, I'll show you some videos of good morals among Muslims derived from the Sharia. The first video that I'm going to show you is what I mentioned earlier of how a Muslim in a non-Muslim country saved the life of Jews on a train, on a New York subway train. Okay? And he will mention how because of the Islamic teachings he has been taught, there was a duty for him to save, even though he was a non-Muslim. Okay?
I think this is common, whether you're Muslim or Buddhist. An organization called the Doctor Without Borders.
Okay.
Most of the assistance and donations are going to the Muslim country. The donors are mostly are Christian and more Muslim. Most of the Hong Kong people donate a lot of money to the Doctor Without Borders, and then they provide service in the Muslim country. But the donor, 99.9% are not Muslim.
Okay. So what is the point you're trying to say? This is something common?
This is one typical example. I think it's It's human. As a human, whether you are Muslim or non-Muslim, there's no difference.
Right. But you cannot make a causation. You cannot say, oh, it's because it's normal human being. It could be the teachings of Islam.
No. Such example, I can find 1,000 the non-Muslim to save the Muslim.
Okay. But then what I'm trying to say is, this kid
The
who may have
number
not,
of the
sorry,
having border, 99% are non-Muslim. Some of them they go to the Muslim country and then they be executed.
So
They be killed.
that's why what we want to show you, non-Muslim people are saving Muslim, we are also saving non-Muslim.
Only one example.
A lot, but not in
But
YouTube.
when 1% of the Muslim will save the non-Muslim, and 99% of the non-Muslim will kill the non-Muslim.
I respect your opinion. I I hope I can speak.
It's the true fact.
I respect your opinion. I appreciate that. Maybe perhaps I have not come across this fact, but what I'm trying to indicate here
You go
is how
through
this young how this
man.
man says that I saved the Jews because of the teachings that have been taught upon me. So I'm trying to explain the connection of what the teachings of the Islamic law has an effect on the young people. Okay? I'm not going to show you the whole video because of time. I'm going to show it from 201. Okay. Sorry, the volume here.
Because it's not connected to them. It's not connected to them.
Maybe we can just upload the PowerPoint.
I perhaps could, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Good majority. I think this will be in Hong Kong for a long while.
Listen. Islam teaches you to be kind to your fellow men, to be courteous. So he's trying to say that how Islam has an impact on him. This is a direct statement from him of how Islam impacts his behavior in society. So there were other people on the train as well. Let me put this. There were other people on the train. No one came to save these 2 or 3 people. This is the earlier girl you saw was the girlfriend of this man. There were 3 people who were being beaten, and they were a group of total 16 people. Okay? This man came in, even though he knew he was going to lose. Hassan, he knew he was going to lose, but he was like, hey, preservation of life. Okay? The other videos, because the voice is not working, I'm going to move on. I'm now going to move on to the secular law. So now we have covered the Islamic laws. We've been through the sources. We've looked at the purposes. We've looked at the rulings: haram, makruh, allowed, recommended, obligatory. Okay, we've looked at the rulings now. I'm now going to go into the secular laws, which in other words means man-made laws. Okay, which is different from religious laws. Okay, this is made by the men, and they consider that religion should not be taken into account here. And let me tell you that the following slides are not going to be showing too much positive, because we all know positive stuff. Okay, you should not cross the red light. Okay, this is too simple.